Hi, I'm Rebecca. Welcome to my sewing room. This is Sew Be It. This week I am making another dress of my own pattern. The bodice will be slightly similar to last week because I am actually using the same bodice. But with my dress last week, as you heard, it was a bit looser than I wanted for that. Well, I'm using a different fabric, and so it will be much looser than what I want for this week's. So I'm actually just going to modify it and take it in like 2 inches. I only want 2 inches of ease instead of 4 inches of ease. So I will show you how I alter the pattern from last week. I also will be doing a different sleeve. I think I am going to be doing a little bit of a poof and then have it blouse out at the bottom. I originally thought about doing the same sleeve as last week at elbow length, or doing the same sleeve but a full length, and I decided that I don't really want to do that. I'm not completely positive that I will be using this sleeve because of the skirt. So I'm going to do a gathered A-line skirt that hits right about at the knee, but then I will be doing a ruffle at the bottom as well for the dress. I think this pattern or this style will actually look really good with the fabric that I chose. I am using this nice light rayon fabric that I featured in my pattern con video. I got this when I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I fell in love with the feel of this fabric. This is not really a color that I would normally go for, but I do really like it for the fall. So I got it to try it. So this dress is the idea that I have for this fabric. And I think because it's a rayon, the skirt will drape really nicely, but I also think that these sleeves will be quite nice. I may end up changing the sleeves that I use for this and going back with the elastic, but I will let you know obviously as I go through, because I do have to, if I do the sleeve that I have drawn out, I do have to pattern the new sleeve. So I will let you know. Also, I don't think that I'm going to be making the facing for this bodice. I got some cream color bias tape, so I will be using that. And I have those little turds. Those cats are brats. They got a hold of my zipper. I have this tan, what color is it? If there's any more information at the top, which I don't think there was. It's chewed off by the cats. But I have this tan colored zipper as well for this dress because I'll be doing a center back zipper. I may also have to do hook and eye closure. I got a longer zipper so that maybe it'll go all the way up to the top, but we will see how that goes. And I guess let's go ahead and get altering this pattern. Okay, as you can see, I have my original bodice piece from the last dress under here, and I have everything traced except for this side and this dart. We obviously have a helper here to pattern. Since I can see this line, and I know that I want to take 2 inches off of this bodice. By the way, I realized I put a seam allowance in the center front, but I'm still going to do the 2 inches off the bodice, so it's just a 1/2 inch in from this seam line here. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do, is mark a 1/2 inch, and then and then we'll add the seam allowance back. Okay, so here's my new line. We'll smooth all of this out a bit. And then drawing the dart again with a little bit of help from Mr. Gabbana here. And now we want to add in our seam allowance at 5/8, and I do have 5/8 lines marked, so that's kind of cool. And we want to make sure we get our grain line marked, so we don't have any stupid issues with cutting two pieces or something weird. So now this is the front. Obviously, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and then I'm going to do the same thing to my back piece. And then I will be back because I am not, once I get the front and the back, well, the back redrawn, but both of them cut out, I will then be back to decide. I am not positive what I'm doing with this sleeve. I don't know that I love the idea of the bell. I'm still trying to figure out my design, and I want to make sure it's cohesive with the skirt of the dress. So yeah, we will figure it out when I get back. Okay, I have decided that I'm not going to do the sleeve that I drew. I am going to make the same sleeve as last week, but I'm going to do a long sleeve version. I do already have the entire pattern piece traced and cut out. So to be sure that this is all even, I am going to draw a vertical line, but I'm lining this up with the bottom of the sleeve. And then on that line, I will be drawing a horizontal line. And this is the line that I will be lining up on the other piece of pattern paper that I will be putting underneath this. Move this out of the way, and now from the center notch, I'm going to be making a vertical line and then continue it all the way down, and then I will be doing one line on an inch of either side of this line. I will now be cutting along these three lines. Now you lay this extra piece down, and I am going to use this pattern weights here just to hold this down. Now I'm going to start off with this first piece of my sleeve, and I'm going to go way over. And we want to make sure this line of the sleeve is matched up with this line. Now, I'm going to take my long piece and take my long ruler, and I'm going to measure 1.5 inches away from this line. So now, find this piece up with this line, but also up with this line. And I'm going to do the same thing off of the edge of this one. Okay, and one more time, 1.5 inches away from this one. And now, my center notch was at these 2 marks. So now I need to measure half the distance between and make a new center notch. Since it's 1.5 inches away, we're going to do it at 3/4 of an inch here. And we're going to true this line now. And then I do need to make these all lay flat type. I also need to make sure that we ease between these notches to have it all fit. I need to double check how long this is. This is 25.5 inches. I need to double check how long I actually need it. 21 inches. Did I say 25.5? Okay. So I don't need to add anything for the length, but I do need to make a mark at 21 inches for the elastic line. And let's draw a line all the way across. This is my new elastic line. Okay, and now I need to make my seam allowance all the way around this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be back for whatever's next. Okay, so I have everything cut out now. I used my original A-line skirt pattern that I made a while back, but because I want to do the gathered waist, and I took a little bit of size off of, well, I took 2 inches off of the bodice piece. I added 1 inch on each piece of the skirt, which actually adds 2 inches on each the front and the back for an additional 4 inches on the skirt so that I can gather that skirt up. And then the leftover fabric I cut into 6-inch strips. I have 4 of them for the ruffle that will be on the bottom. So 2 strips will be on the front and 2 strips will be on the back of the skirt when I go ahead and gather that up. I do also have pockets in this dress, and I was able to cut them out of the rayon so they will match. Just so you know, I originally purchased 3 yards of this fabric And other than like the tiny strips of fabric, this is all I have left. So you're gonna need about 3 yards of fabric. It is possible that if you did this and you're my size that you could get less than 3 yards of fabric if you really consolidated. But if you want to make sure that you have enough ruffle and they're long enough so that you can gather them the way you like, I would recommend 3 yards, maybe even more, because I'm not positive how full that ruffle is going to be, but that's all I have. So it should be decently full. It might even be too full with all 4. So we will see. So yeah, my first step is to do the darts on the bodice, and then and then sew the bodice together. When I add Cabana, stop it. Oh, when I get to the sleeves, I will show you what I'm going to do for that elastic casing and the hem and whatnot. But otherwise, the sleeves will be pretty much the same as last week. Stop getting into my stuff or you're going to get you put in trouble. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch those darts and stitch the bodice together front to back at the shoulder and the side seams. I will be using some sort of overlock stitch and then trimming the seams of this. Okay, so first off, let me let you know that if you use rayon, and if you haven't used it before, I think I've only worked with it one other time. My rayon, and maybe it's a thing with all rayons, I'm not sure. The other time I used it was textured, but this wrinkles really fast. So when I sewed the darts, I had to sew all of both the, or when I ironed the darts, I had to iron all of both, or yes, all of the pieces of the bodice. I also wanted to get on here and let you know that instead of just doing a regular shoulder seam and side seam, I want to make sure that this lasts a while. So I'm going to use the stitch witchery, which is fusible bonding. A lot of times you'll use it in like a hem so that you don't have, like, this is all no sew, you can just press it. But I am actually just putting it between my layers to reinforce my seams, give it a little bit extra. This is also an ultra lightweight. I have a ton of this stuff and I barely ever use it. I think I've only used it one time, and I didn't do so well of getting it along, just along that stitch line, but I am using so it like showed through when I turned my pieces right sides together, but I am using one of my covers, is that what it's called, cover stitches, on this fabric for these seams as well. So this will just reinforce all of it and leave less of a possibility for it all to tear, and who knows, maybe this will even help it from fraying so much. So I'm going to go ahead and I need to cut each of these down to size for each seam. So I'll be doing the shoulder seams and then the side seams, and then I'll just be sewing it all together and trimming just like I normally would. So I'm going to go ahead and press these. Make sure if you do use this that you do not press just this with your iron. It needs to be between fabric because both sides is sticky. Both sides of this has adhesive. So now that I have the entire bodice completed, everything's pressed and trimmed, I went ahead and moved on to the sleeve. So the first thing I did was sew the underarm sleeve. I did not use the witch stitch, is that what it's called? I can't remember now. The stitch witchery. I didn't use that because I do want this to drape and hang the way it's supposed to and not be stiff at all. However, there will be a spot that is stiff because I'm doing the elastic on here. And I learned with my last dress that the elastic really bothers my arm. So I don't want it touching my arm. So I went ahead and used the bias tape that I got for this project and inserted a casing right at that elastic line. I did stitch the entire thing, but I have a little bit of an opening there to feed the elastic through. Once I get the sleeve done and inserted, I think it'll be a lot easier with just the casing on here. So now that I have this done, I'm going to set this sleeve aside and do the same thing to the next sleeve. The next step after that will be to hem my sleeves and insert them to the bodice. I have to have gathering stitches from this notch through the center all the way to the double notch. So it's the front and the back notches, not the underarm notches up here. I'll be gathering and then easing that part into the bodice, and then once that's done, that's when I will try it all on and add the elastic to the sleeves. I have one sleeve done, done attached to the bodice, and I love how it turned out, so I want to show you. Isn't it so cute? I love the little gathering and the poof. Let's see if I can make it. Isn't that so fun? That's perfect colors for fall. And the elastic will be right here, so it'll cinch it up a bit. And it is, I did a 1/2 inch rolled hem, so it only shortened my sleeves an inch from where they were. So I'm really excited. I did double stitch the sleeve. I did a regular straight stitch on here. You can kind of tell. I did a straight stitch here, and then I did my overlock stitch, which is the same thing I did in my shoulder seams and my side seams. And then I trimmed them. That's because with the overlock stitch, my machine moves the fabric forwards and backwards, and sometimes that will mess up and get caught in my gatherings, in my gathered fabric there. And I wanted to make sure that didn't happen, so I just went with a straight stitch. Yes, it takes a little bit of extra time, but it does make a very nice finished look, and it's extra reinforced with this thinner fabric. Okay, so now I need to get my other sleeve in, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now that the bodice is finished, I have to move on to the skirt. And the skirt is pretty straightforward when it comes to making that, so I won't be showing you any footage for pretty much the rest of the dress. Okay, so for the skirt, I will be inserting the side seam pockets as usual, so attaching them to the side seams at the front and the back, and then I will be sewing the front and the back of the skirt together around those pockets, and obviously leaving the opening for my hands. And I will be double stitching this whole thing the same way as I did the sleeves, with the straight stitch and then the overlock stitch, just to make sure everything's nice and straight, and all of that. Once I get the side seams together, I then have to do the ruffle. So the first thing I will be doing with the ruffle is doing a rolled hem that is a 1/2 inch, just like I did with the sleeves. So I'm only shortening it by 1 inch, and then I will sew all of the ruffle together. So I'll have 4 seams there. Then I'll do the gathering stitches in the ruffle, and as I obviously attach that to the bottom of the skirt, I will gather it up. I have a feeling that this is going to be a very gathered ruffle, but that'll be okay. It'll be a nice fun touch to the dress. After the ruffle is on, I will then attach the skirt to the bodice, and make sure that nothing, because of the rayon, nothing gets actually caught up into the waist, and fix that if it does, because God forbid, my waist would look like this if I'm getting a whole bunch of it caught. After the skirt is attached to the bodice, it will be time for the finishing touches basically. So I will be putting in the zipper and binding the neckline with the bias tape and inserting the elastic into the sleeves. Other than that, that should be everything. So I'll see you with the final product. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I think this will be another one of my absolute favorite dresses. I love the feel of the rayon against my skin. This is a really soft rayon. Rayon is a little bit harder to work with. You do have to go a lot slower because it likes to move, but the final product is always so nice. So I really need to remember that I am always so much happier once I'm finished with the project because they always turn out so good. This I will be able to put a slip on underneath it on those cooler days along with some nylons and throw a sweater over it. So this will be good for most of the season as long as it doesn't get too cold. Rayon is a little bit light, so I don't know how long into the winter I'll be able to wear this dress, but hopefully I'll be able to continue to wear it for most of the fall and part of the winter. I think in the last part of my summary of how I was going to make the skirt, I may have forgot that I may have forgot to tell you that I would be doing gathering stitches in the waist of the skirt so that I can gather it down to the size of the bodice, because I did make it a little bit bigger than the bodice, and that's exactly what I did. You could kind of see it in the reveal video. You can kind of see it here. It's not gathered as much as I thought it might be, but I still really like it. I also was really worried during the construction that I had cut off too much fabric or too much of the bodice when I was doing the pattern, and so I was really nervous that this was going to be like too tight or just fit and I wouldn't be comfortable with it, but it's not tight at all. I have about 2 inches actually of ease in this dress, and it turns out for this fabric it really is the perfect amount of ease. Well, I think that's all I have for you this week. Thank you for watching. I would love to hear any of the times that you have worked with rayon. Do you like working with it, or is it hard? Will this video inspire you to maybe work with some rayon fabric? Because wow, I totally want to find some more. If you liked my video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to make sure you see all of my videos, hit that subscribe button and I will show up in your subscribers page on your YouTube. And if you want to be notified every single time I post so that you make sure you don't miss anything I post, go ahead and hit that notification bell and YouTube will notify you every single time I post. Thank you for watching Rebecca's Sewing Room. This was So Be It. Before I end this video, obviously I'm back inside. During the finishing touches, I did not sew up the back seam of my skirt as high as I should have for the zipper. So I had about 2 to 2.5 inches left at the top of the dress, and I don't really mind that because I always improvise and I add a hook and eye or something. This time I added an elastic loop and a button. So I am now closed up with a button and a zipper.